All right, so in this video, we're going to go over implementing true first person in Unreal Engine. Uh, we're going to implement true first person in this video, and we're also going to add in the functionality to swap between first and third person. So to do that, we want to start with the third person template. Starting with the first person template, even if you're making just a first person game, it's best to start with the third person template because it will give you the full body mannequin already in place. All right, so you'll make your third person template, name it whatever you want, and then let's start. And this might take a few minutes. If you're new to Unreal, loading up a project can sometimes take a little bit for the first time. Now that we're already in, we'll get started. All right, so really quick rundown. On the left, you have your place actors. This is where you're going to put objects and stuff into your scene. The big screen in the middle is your scene. And on the right, we have World Outliner. These are all the different objects in your scenes that you can select, pick which one you want, make changes down in the details panel if you need to. Details panel has all the information you need. And then your file structure down at the bottom. For now, to get started, we're going to click on your third person character, click on Edit Third Person Blueprint. We're going to go into the viewport. So we're going to keep this follow camera in place because it's going to act as our third person perspective, but we are going to go ahead and add in a new component. So click on Add Component and search Camera. And we just want camera. We don't want Cine camera, however that is, or a shake source, just camera. And we will name this FP camera. Now this needs to be attached to your mesh. So to do that, just click and hold on your camera, drag it up, and now your camera is a child of your mesh. Okay, so after that's done, make sure you have your FP camera selected. Over here under sockets, we're going to attach it to the head so the camera can keep the perspective and rotation and follow your character with the animations, whatever, correctly. And when you do that, it's going to start moving around. As you can see, it's moving with the animation of the character, but it is twisted all weird. So we're going to reset the orientation over here on the right. Just click these little arrows to reset back to 0. And then you're going to want to switch to the rotation tool instead of these arrows. You can do that by hitting space or by clicking up here. So we'll rotate that 90 degrees, and then on the red one, rotate that another 90. Right there, this is gonna bother me. So set that, oh, sorry, that needs to be -90. That needs to be 0, and that needs to be 90. Okay, so now our camera is attached, but it's a little bit behind the head, so you're actually gonna be looking inside of the head of the mannequin. So we wanna drag that forward to about there. Okay. Now you have two more things you need to do. You need to come down to follow camera, and we're going to uncheck, where is it? Auto activate. You can just search auto activate, uncheck that. That way it's going to default to our first person camera. Then you also want to check this box, use pawn control rotation. That is going to make it to where wherever the camera's looking, that's where your character is going to move to. Then one last thing, we're going to go up to the third person character, and we want use controller rotation yaw. Just like that. And that's going to make sure your character's body is rotating with the camera as well. So we'll compile that. You can jump in, test it. Now we've got first person with the full body. Run around. See your hands moving. So we're good. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do is be able to switch between the first person camera and the third person camera. First thing that I like to do, I like to keep everything neat. So we're going to go up here to Edit, Project Settings. Come down to Input under Engine. And we're going to add a new action mapping. So hit that plus, and I'm going to call this Change Perspective. And I'm going to use the V key. You can set this to any key you want. I'm just used to V in most games, so that's what I'm going to use. All right. So once that's done, you can close out of this. You can just hit the X. You don't need to save. We're going to come into the third person editor. Oops, sorry. And then we're going to go to the event graph. Now, this is where all of the code for the movement and anything else you want to put in is going to be stored. So this first chunk does exactly what it says if you're using a controller. This, if you're using a VR headset, you can reset the orientation position just like it says. I'm actually going to get rid of that because I'm not doing anything with the VR. Mouse input, this is what's going to allow you to move your character, not move your character, look around essentially. Look up, look to the right, left, whatever. Your jump action, and then here's your actual movement input. So this is where the WASD is controlled. We're not going to touch any of that. I'm going to delete the touch input because we're not going to do any kind of mobile. Get rid of that. Now, if you want, you can click anywhere on this graph and hit C, and that's going to bring up that little comment window. So I'm going to label this change perspective so I can keep the chunks of code where they need to be. Okay. So first things first, that change perspective key that we put in, we can actually just type in change perspective, and here's the action event. So whenever you hit V, it's going to call this action and launch off this code. So the first thing we want is when you press it, we're going to actually do a branch, which reminds me I'm going to make a new variable. And we're going to set it to where you can easily lock the view to first or third person. So we're going to have that as a Boolean, which should be default. And you can expose it so you can come up and change the value from here. If you click on third person character and click lock view, you can set it up. Nope, compile first. There it is, lock view. So you can toggle this on or off if you want. So we're going to drag that out. We want to get the value of lock view. If it is true, we don't want to do anything because we want to keep the view locked to whichever camera you set as active. If it's false, we want to do a flip-flop node, which is a neat little node for Unreal. So basically, the first time you press it, it'll be A. Second time you press it, it'll be B, and it'll just flip-flop between the two. All right, so now we're going to get into the actual switching of the camera. So A, we're going to do set active FP camera. That is going to be the new active. And then we're going to do set active again. It's going to be your follow camera, which is no longer active. And since we are setting the first person camera, we also need to make sure we set use controller rotation yaw again. I'll make sure that is set. And then for B, we're going to do essentially the opposite. Set active. We want to set active follow camera. Make that the new active. We want to set active first person camera. Make sure that is unchecked. And then we want to set use controller rotation yaw as false. Okay. And then by default, I want, for me, you guys can do it however you want. I want third person to be the initial setting. So now we jump into play. We're in third person, run around. That's not right. Oh, I changed the camera settings, but I did not change that yaw setting. So if the third person camera is active, we do not want controller rotation yaw checked. So there we go. There, now we can use WASD, run around. And if we hit V, pop into third person or first person, there we are, moving around just fine. Hit V again, you're back out in third person. Seamlessly switch. There we go. That is it for this one. The next video, I think I'm going to go over just swapping the default animations. Nothing too complex, just kind of putting in your own animations in there if you want. We'll probably use the Mixamo, the free Mixamo animations, and go from there. Thanks.